Mocked as a black woman mechanic, she shocked them all. 100K bet revealed her incredible talent. The garage echoed with the clattering of tools and the strong scent of oil, a world traditionally framed around men in grease-stained uniforms. Jasmine felt every eye in the room as she adjusted her cap, pulling it tighter to shield her determination from their skepticism. "Why not fix that rare sports car parked out back? Bet you can't do it," Tom jeered, laughter spilling from the crew like oil from an overfilled canister. Jasmine stood frozen for a moment, her heart pounding in her ears, a rush of anger coursing through her. This wasn't just a challenge, this was her life on display for the ridicule they so easily tossed around. A lump formed in her throat, but as she glanced at the door, where she could see the faded yellow school bus waiting for Malik, the source of her every motivation, fire, ignited within her. "I'll take that bet," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. The room erupted in a cacophony of doubts and disbelief. 100 grand! Her fingers tingled at the impossible idea, a sum that could change everything for her and Malik. The days bled into nights filled with sweat and persistence. Grover, the scruffy veteran of the trade, reluctantly accepted her request for assistance. "You think you can handle this, girl?" he grunted, eyeing her with a mix of respect and concern. Each lesson he offered chipped away at her fears, but doubt kept creeping back, feeding on the whispers that followed her every step in this male-dominated realm. Could a woman like her, forged in the furnace of prejudice, really stand against this tide? Each night she sat with Malik at the kitchen table. He eagerly recounted tales of superheroes, and every word felt like a dagger to her confidence. Jasmine clawed at her emotions. She was strong, capable, yet there lay a heaviness in the pit of her stomach. What if she failed? Would this only confirm what they believed, that a black woman didn't belong in this space? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the showdown loomed closer, the weight of betrayal struck like a hammer to her chest when she found out it was of all people Jessie, her closest ally in the shop, who had spread doubts of her skills. The words like knives tore deeper than sleepless nights spent breaking her back. It left her spiraling, wrestling with anguish and heated fury. How could someone she trusted so deeply turn against her? Fear gripped her, threatening to choke her passion for mechanics as she questioned her worth, her talent, and the very foundations of her place within this community. The car remained untouched, a gleaming metal beast laden with expectation, daunting and huge. With Malik's future clinging on her shoulders, every inch forward felt like a step onto thin ice. And as tension thickened like impending storm clouds, she found herself standing at a precipice. Would she courageously tackle her demons and deny their grip, or would she let this moment, overwhelmed by uncertainty and betrayal, define her forever? The answer lingered in the grease-stained air, electric, urgent, and heart-wrenching. Jasmine stood before the sports car, its sleek body reflecting her turmoil and determination. The engine's glimmer beckoned her, yet the whispers of doubt echoed louder than the machinery. The clock was relentlessly ticking, and with every passing moment, she felt the weight of the $100,000 bet pressing down on her like an unrelenting vice. Grover had shown her the basics, each lesson unlocking new knowledge, but the memories of Jessie's betrayal hung like lead on her heart, making every step feel heavier. Could she turn that betrayal into fuel, or would it be the chain that bound her to failure? She rolled her shoulders back and took a deep breath, steadying her shaky resolve. As the garage quieted, she recalled the evenings spent under the hood of various vehicles, absorbing every detail like a student of a craft that had once been denied to her. Those moments were sacred, transforming her vulnerability into an intricate tapestry of expertise. Jasmine had learned the language of mechanics. She just needed the courage to speak it in front of them. "Today is the day," she murmured to herself, recalling Malik's bright smile and words of encouragement. The thought of him soared through her mind, propelling her forward. This wasn't just a bet. This was a chance to break through the invisible barrier that had confined her for too long. She reached for her tools and began to engage with the car. As she laid her hands on the engine, memories flooded back. The fires in her childhood garage, where she first learned the art of fixing and revamping. Her mother had taught her that mechanics were like life, resilient, messy, and profoundly rewarding when things clicked into place. Those lessons, woven with love, lingered in her mind. But failure lurked just beneath the surface. What if she miscalculated a torque measurement or couldn't find the right replacement parts for the car? Each potential mistake seemed to throw loud warning flags in her mind. Jasmine gritted her teeth, clenching the wrench she held tighter, feeling it ground her in purpose. Each turn of the wrench spoke strength. She methodically worked through the engine, drawing on everything Grover had taught her. The doubts tried to creep back in as her mind drifted to Jessie, but every rogue thought she pushed away propelled her further toward clarity. Giving in would mean losing herself, and that was a burden too heavy to bear. Hours slipped by as Jasmine immersed herself entirely in the work. Time lost meaning. Just the whir of the power tools and her racing heart inhabited this space. By the time she stepped back, she had removed the old parts and delicately placed the new ones in position. The sports car began transforming under her hands, mirroring the transformation brewing within her spirit. As darkness began to drape the garage, Jasmine wiped the sweat from her brow, exhaustion creeping in, but exhilaration chased it back. She had made significant progress, breaking that car down to its essential components, and now it was time to reassemble it stronger than what it had been, just like her. But the confrontation felt inevitable. She had to face Jessie, the very person who had sown seeds of doubt in her mind, in front of the entire crew. The thought of it set her heart racing with anxiety. It wasn't just about proving herself. It was about standing her ground and owning her role in this male-dominated landscape. As she exited the garage to grab a drink of water, she saw Jessie leaning against a nearby tool cart, watching her. The confrontation was unavoidable, and the tension hung thick in the air between them. The time had come to face her own reflection and confront the betrayal, Jasmine's inner voice urged, echoing louder than the idle chatter around her. How would this conversation unravel? Would it empower her or cast another shadow over her hard-earned resolve? The air crackled with anticipation as Jasmine took a deep breath, steeling herself for the moment ahead. Jasmine's heart hammered in her chest as she approached Jessie. The very air felt charged, a silent challenge crackling between them. It wasn't merely about the bet anymore. It felt like a recalibration of who they were, not just as competitors, but as women in this gritty trade. Jessie's smirk remained unmoving, an unyielding mask. "Working hard on that car?" she scoffed, arms crossed in feigned nonchalance. Jasmine stood tall, refusing to allow Jessie's condescension to chip away at her resolve. Instead, she focused inward, recalling each intricate lesson Grover had taught her. "Yeah, actually," Jasmine replied, her voice steady, even as her insides twisted. "I'm almost ready to show you what real work looks like." Jessie's laughter bounced off the garage walls, dismissive and cutting. It stirred a fierceness within Jasmine, one she had tried to bury for so long. This wasn't just a battle of skills, it was a showdown of wills, of identities in a field that had sidelined so many like her. "Let me know when you fix that piece of junk," Jessie quipped, nodding to the car, her disdain palpable. Something snapped in Jasmine. She stepped closer, locking eyes with Jessie, her voice laced with fierce determination. "Just watch me. You might be in for a surprise." Forcing a deep breath, she wandered back to the car, her mind racing. Could she prove herself before everyone present? She could feel their eyes, weighing her worth as both a mechanic and a woman. This was her moment not just to compete, but to elevate herself above presumptions and stereotypes. No longer merely Jasmine, the girl from the past. She needed to embody Jasmine, the determined mechanic, ready to break boundaries. Settling into her rhythm beneath the hood again, her hands glided over the engine, recalibrating her focus. Each twist of the wrench felt like a defiance against Jessie's mockery. Jasmine took a moment to reflect, not on Jessie, but on her own journey. Growing up, the garage had been her sanctuary, a place to discover her identity far from judgment. Now that same sanctuary would serve as the crucible for her transformation. As she reassembled the engine, familiar techniques flowed naturally. Each piece clicked into place, mirroring the clarity emerging within her. With every turn, she visualized the success that awaited her. But as she reassembled the engine, doubt threatened to surface once more. What if she still fell short? She could hear Jessie's mocking laughter echoing in her ears, see the doubt reflected in her fellow crew's eyes. Jasmine fought to hold onto the momentum she had just built. No one else's expectations could define her worth. She could forge her own path, mechanic, skilled, and unyielding. She finished her assembly just as the workshop lights flickered on, illuminating her work with a stark intensity. The car looked stunning, and in her gut she felt the electric pulse of triumph. She had transformed not only the vehicle, but herself as well. Rising from her crouched position, she drew in a deep breath, heart racing with a newfound purpose. Then she turned, catching Jessie's gaze again, and for the first time she didn't see contempt. She saw uncertainty flicker beneath the surface. Jessie's confidence wavered momentarily, and that brief pause ignited Jasmine's spirit. This wasn't merely about winning a bet. This was about reclaiming her narrative, reshaping how they all viewed her in this world. "Let's see how far your words go when I ignite this beast," Jasmine declared, her voice surprisingly steady. The smirk was gone from Jessie's face, replaced by a shadow of apprehension. This was no longer just a game. Jasmine was infusing life into the machine she had rebirthed, and with it she was reclaiming her story. But as the key turned in the ignition, the engine roared to life, revealing an unexpected glitch, a jarring noise that pulled Jasmine's focus. Frustration bubbled as new doubt crept in, but it was mingled with resolve. She had to figure this out before the crew assembled for the grand reveal. What had she overlooked? With seconds ticking away and Jessie eyeing her with renewed anticipation, Jasmine stood at the precipice of discovery. Would she conquer this final obstacle, or would it be another reminder of her fragile reality? The engine sputtered again, a wrenching sound that felt like a punch to Jasmine's gut. Panic threatened to overwhelm her senses. Focus, she reminded herself. Whatever had caused the glitch, she would identify it. She was not the girl who would be defeated by a mechanical issue. She would navigate this challenge like Grover had taught her. With swift precision, she turned to examine the engine further, considering every connection, all the hoses and wiring. The crowd's anticipation hummed in the background, each gaze piercing through the garage's dim light. She could almost count their breaths, each one a silent expectation of what she might do next. No longer was she just a competitor. She had become an embodiment of defiance against the boundaries that tried to contain her skills. What was it? She had meticulously secured the alternator, tightened every bolt, and aligned all the components. Jasmine's brow knitted in concentration. Yet, as she explored deeper into the machine's mechanics, frustration crept in. Had she miscalculated something fundamental? She took a breath, forcing herself to remain calm. Jasmine knew she had to check the spark plugs. Normal procedure, yet the simplest solutions were often the hardest to remember under pressure. Dropping the wrench, she slid her hand into a tight space, feeling around until her fingers brushed against the plugs. As she inspected each one, questions surged through her mind. Was this how Jessie felt in all those moments of arrogance? What did it feel like to assume superiority without having the grit that came with hard-earned knowledge? Jasmine shook her head, dismissing the distraction. This was about her resolve, not about who might be watching to judge. One spark plug felt slightly loose. Gritting her teeth, she tightened it, her fingers working quickly but carefully. A sense of relief washed over her. It was a small step, but it rekindled her determination. With renewed focus, she maneuvered back to the ignition switch, willing herself not to rehash the doubts, but to let the excitement of possibility reignite her spirit. Jasmine turned the key again, her heart racing not from fear, but anticipation. The engine roared, but now it pulsated with a smooth, even thrum, as if responding to her command. The sound washed over her with a rush of satisfaction that stung her eyes briefly. This was her moment, a culmination of every lesson learned, every struggle faced, perfectly harmonized. She could feel Jessie's eyes burning into her once more. This time, however, they were not filled with derision, but rather something else. Jasmine's newfound pride shifted the dynamics, like the changing season from stormy to bright. "Guess you can't mock what you don't understand," Jasmine called out, a fierce smile breaking across her face. The words fired off her tongue before she could second-guess herself. The inner confrontation melted into something fierce and affirming. But just as she prepared to savor the moment, another thought crept in. The challenge wasn't over. She had faced Jessie and emerged to build this roaring engine. But what if the competition ran deeper than just one encounter? Would her success today shape her future, or was it merely a fleeting victory? Jasmine's eyes flicked over to her fellow crew members. They were observing, their expressions shifting from skepticism to reluctant admiration. Their validation felt intoxicating, yet a deeper concern lingered. What if these moments of triumph turned transient once the noise faded? As she basked in the buzz of her accomplishment, a crack formed in her resolve. Would she ever truly escape the shadows of doubt, or would it always loom over her, casting a pall on every achievement? This was a turning point, Jasmine realized. Not just about repairing a car or winning a challenge, but a pivotal moment in her evolution as a mechanic and as a woman who refused to be defined by anyone else's narrative. But the weight of those questions pressed heavily. What would she need to face to ensure this victory became the foundation of a more profound transformation? Jasmine took a deep breath, ready for whatever awaited next. She had crossed one bridge, but a new road stretched ahead, full of unknowns, challenges, and the promise of deeper scrutiny. And in that moment, a new determination settled in her bones. She wouldn't falter. The time had come to confront the obstacles hiding behind her newfound success, ready to face everything that followed. What lay ahead felt daunting, but it was time to discover her true strength against the tides of skepticism. As Jessie approached her, an unreadable expression on her face, Jasmine braced herself for what confrontation might follow, knowing she stood on the precipice of a reckoning that would define her journey. What would this challenging confrontation reveal about Jasmine and Jessie when the stakes turned far more personal than a bet on a car? Fear simmered in Jasmine as Jessie drew closer, her purposeful strides echoing the challenge lurking in the air. The crowd's murmur faded into an expectant hush as all eyes turned toward the two women. Jasmine felt a swell of adrenaline, a blend of apprehension and defiance burning within her chest. This confrontation would mark a new chapter, both personal and professional, in her burgeoning mechanics career. "Nice job with the engine," Jessie said, her tone laced with a playful skepticism. "But let's be real, it won't change the fact that you're still just a mechanic." A flaring heat rushed to Jasmine's cheeks, but she held her stance firm. "And what's wrong with being just a mechanic?" she shot back, her voice steady but charged. "Every just holds immense value." Jessie's eyebrows cocked in amusement, but Jasmine saw a glimmer of something deeper, a flicker of annoyance at her unexpected retort. Jessie stood framed by fading daylight, a picture of privilege, while Jasmine felt the weight of history and struggle settle on her shoulders. It was the baggage of every no she had ever encountered, every sideways glance that had silently labelled her. But that was yesterday's narrative. Today, she was rewriting her story. "What gives you the right to diminish anyone's worth?" Jasmine pressed, determined to challenge her adversary. "You think talent is defined by what's between our legs. I've worked every day to prove otherwise." A hard edge in Jessie's expression wavered for a moment. "You think you earned your place here? How many times have you messed up in the shop? Don't get me wrong, you have skill, but you're still in over your head." Jasmine inhaled sharply, the comment squeezing her heart like a vice, each word stabbed with sharp familiarity, echoing her own insecurities. But a new resolve stiffened her spine. Jessie's attempts to belittle her only underscored the fight that resided in her. What if Jasmine could use this moment, not just against Jessie, but as a powerful reminder for herself? "I'm not over my head, Jessie," Jasmine said, her voice lowering but growing in conviction. "I'm ascending. I'm honing my skills every day. Being a woman in this field isn't just a challenge, it's my gateway to excellence." Behind Jessie, murmurs rippled through the crowd. Jasmine could sense their shifting opinions, but doubt still clung to her like dampened fabric. The idea of single-instant success haunted her thoughts. Could she stand firm in her resolve, or would she wither in the face of scrutiny? "You really think a single win will change things?" Jessie challenged, and in that moment Jasmine realized the root of her struggle. This was less about one confrontation and more about dismantling the pervasive prejudice that clouded her talent. "I don't need just one win," Jasmine replied, her tone laser-focused. "This is about building a legacy, one defined by hard work, not by the opinions of others." Something flickered in Jessie's eyes. Maybe respect, maybe fear. Perhaps both were implicated now, and Jasmine felt a rush of empowerment. Yet that certainty was accompanied by an underlying vulnerability. Could she sustain this newfound voice in the face of escalating encounters? Facing Jessie forced Jasmine to confront something she had tried to suppress, the nagging fear that this moment of triumph could easily slip away. Yet as the air grew tense, it became a realization, not of doubt, but an acknowledgement of growth. She was no longer merely the underdog. She was beginning to recognize her own value, rooted in the clogs of the machinations around her, literal and metaphorical. Then Jessie leaned closer, their faces mere feet apart. "So what's next, Jasmine? You think you can ride this momentum indefinitely?" Jasmine met her gaze squarely, refusing to blink first. Success was a mountain, not a peak. Her path was long and fraught with obstacles, but it was hers, each challenge a stepping stone to elevation. "You'll see," Jasmine replied, her voice echoing with conviction. "I'm just getting started." As she stepped back, feeling the eyes of the crowd on her, her heart raced, not with doubt but with the crackling sense of purpose igniting within. This confrontation was only the beginning. With a cloud of uncertainty still lingering, Jasmine understood she had to chase opportunities that would push her further into the fray. And as the crowd began to disperse, leaving her alone with swirling expectations and unanswered questions, a new thought struck her. What lay ahead was not merely a battle against Jessie, but an entirely new level of challenges lurking beyond that conversation. Jessie's smirk came back, wider this time. The challenge wasn't over, and Jasmine was left wondering just how deep the rivalry could dig. It was now a matter of strategy, one that would demand everything she had. But that would require digging deeper than her mechanical prowess. It would demand every ounce of her resolve to confront the looming uncertainties of her journey. What layers of opposition awaited her as she progressed? Would her latest victory serve as a shield, or was it destined to be a momentary spotlight echoing her every fear? Jasmine's ambition bubbled within her, churning in anticipation of what was to come. The stakes were higher than she had reckoned, and the true challenge loomed just beyond the horizon. In the quiet aftermath of that charged confrontation, Jasmine tried to reclaim her focus, though the noise of the crowd still reverberated in her ears. The adrenaline coursing through her body was exhilarating, but it came with a clarity that felt like a warning. She had made her stand, but what did that truly mean? To thrive in this environment, she would need to cultivate more than just fearlessness. She would have to refine her skills and embrace every ounce of her identity. The following weeks brought new opportunities, and with them, fresh challenges. Every day in the shop felt like a test of her endurance, a chance to prove that not only could she withstand scrutiny, but she could outmaneuver it. Each time, one of the older mechanics made a snide remark or questioned her qualifications, Jasmine resolved to respond not with anger, but with calculated poise. Jesse's tirade had ignited a fire that pushed her forward. Yet Jasmine realized that sustaining that energy would require strategic thinking. One afternoon, as she assessed an engine that had been brought in earlier, Jasmine felt a shift in her mindset. This wasn't just about the mechanics, it was about understanding her tools in depth. She picked up her wrench, its cool, weighty metal a reassuring presence in her grip. The nuances of the engine began to reveal themselves, interspersed with challenges that would ordinarily daunt her just weeks prior. Each bolt she loosened, each alignment she adjusted, solidified her belief that she was not merely playing in a man's world, but carving her own space within it. Yet it wasn't enough to merely fix engines. Jasmine craved validation outside the confines of the shop. She found herself drawn to a local competition, an impromptu contest where up-and-coming mechanics would showcase their skills. Victory could propel her reputation, affirm her position, and provide an opportunity to demonstrate her talents on a broader stage. However, anticipation quickly morphed into doubt, the cascade of thoughts. What if I fail? What if they look at me and only see a woman, a black woman, an outsider, threatened to overflow? Jasmine took a moment, closing her eyes to regain her footing. This competition was not solely to win over others, it was a personal commitment to embrace and affirm her identity. She opened her eyes, and a sense of clarity washed over her. That night, she plotted her approach. She studied complex engine blueprints and practiced every technique she had learned. With each practice session, the walls of doubt began to crumble. She was building not just skills, but a fortress of resilience. The competition was just a few days away, and she was determined that the spotlight, however daunting, would not flicker out under her presence. As the date approached, Jasmine found herself at the shop later than usual. She sought solace in the hum of machinery, wrestling with the intricate problems laid before her. Past conversations with Jesse replayed in her mind, but instead of diminishing her spirit, they ignited a fierce determination. If Jesse had underestimated her then, let her be the catalyst for Jasmine's growth. Each incident reinforced a single resolve. She would rise, not just to address the prejudices that challenged her, but to redefine what it meant to be a mechanic. The day of the competition finally arrived, and as she entered the venue, Jasmine felt the buzz of excitement and anxiety collide. The crowds were larger than she anticipated, and a mix of anticipation and uncertainty coursed through her veins. She adjusted her tool belt, her heart drumming steadily in rhythm with an unwavering sense of purpose. As she surveyed the other contestants, her eyes settled on one familiar face, Jessie, already commanding attention with her confidence. But this time, Jasmine didn't shrink in the shadows. Instead, she squared her shoulders, taking in a deep breath that echoed her transformation. It was time to prove not just her skills, but the profound depth of her resilience and ambition. The moment had come to face the calculated risks of recognition, all while reaffirming her identity in a world that too often sought to compartmentalize it. With a steely determination, she approached the first challenge, ready to show not just the mechanics of engines, but also the mechanics of her journey. The stage was set for a revelation, not just about her talents, but about the indomitable spirit that thrived within her. What lay ahead would demand every ounce of her focus and tenacity, but as she picked up her tools, Jasmine knew she was primed for the fight. Little did she know, Jessie was plotting something that would push her even further into the depths of this rivalry. Would this opportunity lead to deeper revelations about her capabilities, or would it instead unveil unforeseen challenges? Jasmine inhaled deeply as she positioned herself in front of the engine. The scent of oil and metal, usually comforting, now buzzed with a palpable intensity. She was acutely aware of the spectators, their murmurs weaving through the air like an unseen opponent. Each comment, each glance felt like a layer of judgment. But today, she was resolute. Today, she would not merely participate, she would dominate. The first challenge set before her was intricate, a classic car systems overhaul. Competitors scrambled with tools and parts, but Jasmine remained centered. She approached the task as a puzzle rather than a test, focusing on the systematic disassembly of the components. As she worked, her mind flashed back to the countless hours spent alone in the shop, the sweat-soaked late nights, each a stepping stone to this very moment. With each bolt she removed, she felt the weight of expectation shift. This was not merely a contest, it was an assertion of her identity, a declaration of her presence in a polarized realm. Yet Jessie's presence acted like a shadow, teasing the boundaries of her concentration. Her rival's skill and charisma radiated, but as Jasmine tightened a clamp with precision, she felt a shake of confidence. Moving to the next challenge, Jasmine had to reverse engineer a malfunction. The clock ticked audibly behind her, but she focused on the task. The error codes flashed before her like a puzzle she was meant to solve. Each line of circuitry, every potential malfunction, began to reveal layers as she mentally catalogued the lessons learned from her mentors. The amalgamation of knowledge clicked into place, each component an integral part of a larger narrative that was ultimately hers to tell. But beneath the rhythm of her determination, a visceral doubt tugged at the corner of her mind. Was she truly as prepared as she thought? Was meticulous preparation enough to stand against the seasoned competitors who'd had years of experience? Just as that thought threatened to swallow her confidence, her eyes landed on Jessie, who was swaggering through her task with a confidence that bordered on arrogance. Jasmine's pulse quickened. This was not just a competition anymore, it was an assertion of self. The remaining minutes dwindled. Jasmine recalibrated her focus, silencing the noise that begged for her attention. Instead of being a passive contender, she visualized the complexity of her stride, the purpose behind each movement. The physicality of working with engines had always been her solace, but now it became her voice. She reached for the quarter-turn tool one last time, her hands steady as she adjusted the timing belt. A scoff echoed across the stage, a reminder of the critical eyes on her. Instead of recoiling, she smirked. She was more than their preconceptions. Witnessing Jasmine shift from a state of tension to one of unwavering focus, a sense of pride enveloped her. This was growth, a transformation that transcended mere mechanics. She was nurturing her inner fortitude, building a belief that could withstand scrutiny, that could echo beyond the confines of this competition. In these moments, she discovered her hidden tenacity, a reservoir she hadn't fully tapped into before. As the clock chimed to signal the end of the round, Jasmine stepped back, allowing a brief smile to cross her lips. The engines roared to life, signaling successes and failures alike. In that swirling sea of sound, Jasmine felt a surge rise within her. Recognition, not just from others, but from herself. Her journey did not pivot around validation from those who doubted her. It was a testament to her unyielding spirit. But just as she prepared to confront the next challenge, Jessie strode over with an unsettling smirk, her posture brimming with condescension. "Hope you're not too proud of that work. Looks like you missed a few crucial details." Jasmine locked eyes with her, and in that moment, the spark of rivalry ignited anew. The fight was far from over. It would take more than skills to surmount the barriers placed before her. What would unfold in the next challenge? A revelation awaited that would deepen the conflict and her understanding of her own capabilities. Jasmine felt the heat of Jessie's gaze linger, but she refused to let the taunt seep into her core. This was not just a competition of parts and repairs. It was a crucible testing her character. Gathering her tools, she shook off the lingering doubt that Jessie had attempted to plant. Instead, she steeled herself for the next challenge, a timed build of a custom exhaust system. Failure wasn't an option. She needed to prove, not just to the crowd, but more importantly to herself, that she could command respect in this male-dominated arena. Stepping toward the workspace, the scent of metal and gasoline filled her nostrils, invigorating her with a sense of purpose. Her hands didn't tremble. Instead, they flew through the preliminary steps, each movement reminiscent of the countless hours spent sharpening her craft in the garage. She was aware of the other competitors around her, but the noise of their struggles became white noise as her focus zeroed in on the task ahead. The clock ticked down mercilessly, and the pressure surged. Jasmine's mind danced between components, pipe bends, sound dampening, flow rates. She formulated a plan, strategically selecting materials that would enhance performance while keeping the design clean and efficient. She could hear the murmurs of spectators as they critiqued her choices. Their voices filled the room, but she mentally crumpled their judgment into a ball and cast it aside. The machines buzzing around her amplified the urgency of the challenge. Her heart raced with adrenaline as she began attaching pieces, ensuring each joint was secure. But, halfway through, she encountered an unexpected obstacle, a misalignment that threatened to derail her progress. In that fleeting moment, doubt returned, tightening its grip. Her cool facade trembled as memories of past failures flickered like shadows across her mind. Had she truly calculated enough? Did she underestimate the complexity of this task? But then, a powerful realization crashed over her like a wave. Every setback had been a lesson, and in this moment, she could either cower or push forward with renewed vigor. Taking a deep breath, she recalled her mentor's words. Every screw, every bend. Don't just rush, understand. Master the mechanics, and they will yield. Jasmine recalibrated, pulling up the pieces in her mind until clarity emerged. With a sudden burst of energy, she shifted gears. Instead of attempting to force the misaligned pipes into place, she methodically removed the blockages, re-evaluating her approach. As she maneuvered through the adjustments, the pit in her stomach dissolved, replaced by a rising sense of mastery. She poured every ounce of her focus into this assembly, each movement deliberate. A glance sideways revealed Jessie, effortlessly wielding her tools as if she were orchestrating a complex symphony. That display of grace, however, only fueled Jasmine's determination. The specter of competition lingered, driving her to execute each connection flawlessly. Moments felt like hours as Jasmine stood in the eye of her own storm, determined, capable, unyielding. The final pieces clicked seamlessly into place, each stroke of her hand less a chore and more a conversation with the machine. Just as she fastened the last bolt, the countdown chimed ominously in her ears, echoing the fact that time was running out. As Jasmine stepped back, a sharp exhale escaped her lips. The exhaust system gleamed like a trophy under the bright lights, a tangible manifestation of her skill and resilience. But it wasn't just the task completion she felt, it was an awakening. She had risen above her self-doubt, transforming chaos into coherence. Just then, the MC's voice cut through the haze, announcing the break before the final round. Jasmine caught a sidelong glance from Jessie, one filled with intrigue and slight respect, but there was no time for distractions now. Would the next challenge put her newfound confidence to the ultimate test in ways she had never imagined? The stakes were escalating, and Jasmine prepared to step deeper into her own potential, ready to confront not only the competition, but the layers of her complex identity as well. Jasmine leaned against the cool metal of her workspace, the adrenaline from the previous task still coursing through her veins. The brief reprieve allowed her to transition from a frenzied build to a moment of contemplation. As the crowd buzzed with excitement, she sensed the shift in atmosphere. The next challenge loomed. It wasn't just another contest of skill, it was an opportunity to define herself. In this industry, where women were often an anomaly, every victory felt like an echo against the walls of conformity. She thought of Jessie, the sharpness in her gaze suggesting she viewed this as just another battle to crush. Jasmine allowed the thought to simmer for a moment. Was it worth her energy? She shook her head slightly, clearing her mind of distractions. The next round would demand not only technical skill, but strategic thinking. "Competitors, please gather around." The MC's voice, booming and authoritative, drew her focus back. The audience quieted, leaning in, eager for the announcement. As he detailed the rules, Jasmine's heart beat like a drum, reverberating through her chest. The task, a complete rebuild of a vehicle's suspension system, complex, multifaceted, and fault-prone. The weight of the challenge pressed against her like the steel of the tools she held. The countdown was intimidating, but Jasmine had learned that fear could be a catalyst rather than a barrier. Eyes darted towards the other mechanics, all poised with determination, but none as introspective about their journey as she had become. She began to mentally map out her strategy while organizing her tools with methodical precision. A washed-out rush of color splashed across her mind. Map routes for tools, weight distribution of the suspension, potential pitfalls. The challenge commenced, and Jasmine surged into action. She approached the task like a puzzle. Each piece had a role to play. The elegant art of the mechanics danced in her mind, drawing a stark contrast against the sweat-pricking tension surrounding her. As she pivoted between agility and calculation, she recalled the hours spent in her father's garage during childhood, absorbing every bit of knowledge. It was time to do what she did best. Halfway through her process of dismantling the existing system, the distant clanging of metal on metal reverberated through her workspace. Jessie was already knee-deep in her build, the crowd visibly enthralled by her speed. But Jasmine didn't let the pressure escalate into panic. Instead, she let the sound bolster her concentration. Each bolt she removed revealed more complications, a cracked strut, worn-out bushings, but also opportunities for innovation. In this task, Jasmine wasn't just replicating standard designs. She adjusted for performance, strength, and even aesthetics. With each calculated decision, she felt a surge of empowerment. She was rewriting the narrative that had too often been woven around women in mechanics, showing not just capability, but creativity. Then, in a moment of unexpected revelation, she discovered that she could apply a modification she had wasted hours perfecting at home. This was her opportunity to showcase not just competence, but her unique flair. They told her similar designs were best. She had learned that true artistry lay in bold adjustments. Quickly, she implemented her idea, snapping everything into place with newfound confidence. But a glance toward Jessie ignited a flicker of doubt again. What if the modification didn't work as intended? Jasmine's heart was a fluttering bird, momentarily caught between cage and freedom. The crowd roared as the last seconds ticked away. She could feel their eyes upon her, but she also felt something stronger, an infusion of self-belief. She let out a determined breath, twisting the last bolt with assuredness, her heartbeat steadying in rhythm with her resolve. As she stood back to survey her work, the completed suspension system, mirror-like and formidable, reflected not just her skills, but her evolution. The moments leading to this point had been painstaking, teaching her resilience. Time! The MC's voice cut through her thoughts, punctuating the air with finality. Jasmine stepped back, nervous anticipation clawing at her stomach. She had faced technical challenges and now stood on the precipice of acceptance. Would they see the artistry in her creation? Would Jessie's early advantage hold, or had she crafted something extraordinary? As the judges approached, Jasmine sensed the intensity building. This wasn't merely a contest of mechanics anymore. It was a pivotal moment in her journey, a confrontation with the expectations of an industry at large. Would she break through the dense ceiling of limitation set before her, or would doubt once again challenge her resolve? With the outcome on the horizon, Jasmine braced herself to confront not just her competitors, but the very narrative that had long defined her existence. The judges examined the competitors' work, the air thickening with anticipation. Jasmine held her breath as they evaluated her suspension system, her heart pounding fiercely in her chest. The uncertainty of the outcome matched the reawakening confidence within her. This wasn't just competition, it was the essence of her growth, her metamorphosis from a mocked apprentice to a determined mechanic ready to seize her rightful place in the industry. As they approached her system, the head judge, a seasoned mechanic whose expertise was well respected, turned to her with a penetrating gaze. "Can you explain your approach here?" he asked, pinching the edge of the modification she had implemented. Jasmine straightened her back, summoning the knowledge and creativity that had illuminated her process. "I recognize the need for enhanced durability and performance under load conditions, so I reinforced structural integrity while maintaining efficiency," she articulated, her voice steady and assertive. The judge nodded, seemingly impressed. "Your adjustments demonstrate a deep understanding of mechanics, both functional and innovative." Their other nods of recognition sparked flickers of pride in her chest. It was happening. In this moment, Jasmine wasn't just answering a question. She was showcasing her transformation. She was commanding the attention and respect she had long sought from those doubting her capabilities. As she spoke, she could sense Jessie's imposing presence lingering nearby. This wasn't just a battle of skill. It was Jasmine's opportunity to rise above the shadows cast by prejudice. What some overlook as just a mechanic's role, I've come to recognize as a canvas, where every modification tells a story of resilience and progress, Jasmine concluded, her words firm as she surveyed the judges. The judges exchanged glances, and Jasmine felt an electrifying wave of satisfaction. She had woven together passion, skill, and newfound confidence, demonstrating a transformation that extended well beyond the car in front of her. They continued evaluating each competitor, and Jasmine turned to see Jessie fuming, her expression laced with frustration. The competitiveness in Jessie only fueled Jasmine's drive to prove her worth. This was no longer just about winning a title, but reshaping perceptions. Finally, the MC returned to the stage, a broad smile breaking across his face. "The judges have finished their deliberation, and we have our winner for this round." The crowd erupted in enthusiasm as Jasmine felt a surge of adrenaline. "First place goes to—" The pause was dramatic, amplifying every ounce of anticipation in Jasmine's chest. "Jasmine!" Victory surged through her like the roar of an engine, drowning out the doubts that had plagued her for so long. It wasn't just a win. It was validation of her journey, the culmination of every sleepless night and self-doubt, a recognition that she had crafted her identity from the ashes of skepticism. As the audience erupted in applause, Jasmine's gaze found Jessie's. In that moment, Jasmine saw not just envy, but acknowledgement. Jessie's smirk faltered, and Jasmine felt a mix of empathy and newfound strength, watching her rival wrestle with the realization of her metamorphosis. She breathed in the applause, processing the gravity of her accomplishments. This victory solidified more than superior mechanic skills. It proved she had defied the limitations imposed upon her by others and inside herself. It transformed her from a participant in a man's world to a formidable contender who commanded her space, and she had made it happen through her tenacity. With the trophy in her hands, the judge's commendation fresh in her mind, Jasmine was not just a proud winner. She had asserted her place within the craft that once seemed out of reach. Her competence radiated as she reveled in the moment. But her thoughts turned toward the future. This wasn't the end. It was merely the first chapter of a long story that was only just beginning to unfold. As she stepped off the stage, she registered the array of faces among the crowd, all each representing their insecurities and stories, reminding her of the layers of challenges still to come. They would witness her growth, her journey woven intricately within the fabric of their thoughts. And as Jasmine envisioned the road ahead, solid confidence blossomed within her. The true essence of a woman conquering prevailing narratives, grounded in her identity, judgment rebuked by undeniable competence. In the warm glow of the spotlight, Jasmine knew she was ready for whatever followed next. She had achieved, proven, transformed, and now held the reins of her destiny. She would not only excel, but elevate those around her through her journey. This was her moment to shine. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about this riveting conclusion, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful ending. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. True fans of personal overcoming stories understand the vital importance of supporting the channel through these actions.